To finish off a black and white photo, once you've done the restore, it's a good idea to correct it for color. So if you're working with a black and white photo, you want to return it to its black and white state and also do things like correct for fading or discoloration. I like to do those with layer adjustments as much as possible. So I'm going to add a black and white layer adjustment, and you can use your adjustment panel, but if you have a hard time guessing what these buttons mean like I do, I go down to this little circle at the bottom of my layers panel and choose black and white. If your properties pop up on this one, we can close it. This is useful on a colored photo, but really not on a black and white photo. Next, I'm going to add a levels adjustment, and this is where we correct for things like fading and try and make this a little better looking. So I'm going to lighten it and darken it just a little bit on both ends by pulling in my white point and my black point. And I don't want to do too much because then you start losing detail. So what you're going for is pulling those in until things start losing detail, either in your whites or in the blacks. Then yep, that does look better. Okay, so that's our levels adjustment. Then you can go in and spot treat areas that might be too dark or too light by creating a dodge burn layer. We do that by creating a new layer, going to Edit, Fill, and changing Use to 50% gray. Okay, and then change the blend mode to Overlay. And this is the one that you can use your dodge tool on to brighten or darken by holding down Option. And keep in mind you can go back and forth between your dodge and burn tools here, but if honestly you just choose your dodge tool and use Option or Alt, you can really affect things. So here's where you could do things like darken up the edges of the picture and lighten up the face just a tiny bit, which will bring more attention to the face. The darkening around the edges takes attention away from that area and directs it towards the face. The last thing to do is to frame up your image, and you can do that any number of ways. I like to just create a layer with whatever color I'm going to use as a frame. So in this case I'm going to go with white, and I'll hide that, grab my marquee tool, and create the frame shape. So I have my elliptical marquee tool. I'm going for hard edges, but you could have soft blurry edges if you wanted to by setting your feather setting to something higher than 0. And there we go. So once I have that selected, I'm going to go back to my white layer, click my layer mask, which will have it be exactly the opposite of what I want. Then I can double click on that and choose to reverse it, which I thought was in here. Yes, it is. Invert. Ta-da! There we go. And I can crop. If I'm going to do this completely non-destructively, I can delete crop pixels and turn that option off. And there's the final result. Quite a bit different than that. Very different. As a finished photo, you would want to save out a file that you could probably upload somewhere easily. Right now it's a Photoshop document with lots of layers. I would recommend doing a file, save as, and if you're going to be uploading this to the internet, save it as a JPEG. If you're going to be printing it, save it as a .tiff, and if you are going to be emailing it, save it as a JPEG, then open your JPEG and make it smaller, because this is a huge file. But that's how you can finish off a black and white photo so that it looks like $100.